everybody to the Global Transformation Project Series. And today I'm very happy to present Dr. Annie Kalayjian, who is a professor and psychologist, and most importantly, the founder of A Meaningful World. This association is a trauma outreach and prevention. It's a world or international program. It is non-governmental. It's affiliated with the United Nations Department of Global Communication. Their mission is to foster a peaceful, meaningful, and just world. They help transform tragedy and trauma into healing and meaning, making through past traumatic growth, mindfulness, and mind-body eco-spirit health to provide relief and restoration to those traumatized and to those treating traumatized populations. So in the past, our program has focused on the science behind mind-body practices. Today, we're focusing more on the practical applications of mind-body practices. And without further ado, thank you, Dr. Annie. Please take it away.
Hi. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be among such esteemed professionals and mind, body, spirit experts. Is it possible to share a few PowerPoint slides by sharing the screen?
Yes, please. I will hit the sharing. And now you should be able to share, Dr. Annie.
Okay. All right. Let's share the screen. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
So I wonder if people can see this 34
Yes.
years of impairment. Yes. So what we have learned that we have not learned from the past, and that's what a lot of our research over the past 35 years exhibited, and in 50 countries and 26 states in USA. Wherever we go to help on the psychological and emotional and spiritual level, we also ensure that we are surveying the people that we have helped. So this way we know how trauma is exacerbated, how meaning making, emotional intelligence, and forgiveness play a part in the healing process. So we have worked, as I mentioned, in 50 countries, and a lot of people, of course, the first question is, what made you start something like this? Well, I come from a lot of trauma. I was born as an Armenian Christian minority in Syria. You would maybe ask why Syria, because that's not neighboring Armenia. So Armenia, Western Armenia, was occupied by Ottoman Empire for over 600 years, and then the genocide happened. I'm not sure how many of you here know about the 1915 Ottoman Turkish genocide, where close to 2 million Armenians were killed, and the rest were thrown out into the Arabian desert, and most of those were killed. But my father and my grandma were lucky, and took them over 6 months to get through the Arabian desert and to settle in Syria. Now, Syria is also a Muslim country, although a lot of the Ottoman pressure was to convert. Those Armenians who converted, they were left alone. They were not massacred or killed. But Armenians are proud of being Christian, because they were first, as a nation in 301 AD, embraced as a state the religion of Christianity. And then one by one, all the neighbors, Syria and Turkey and Azerbaijan, all the neighbors converted into Islam. And this way, the trauma and genocide continues, where 5 months ago, 2 weeks before Gaza terrorism and the genocide to follow happened, there was ethnic cleansing in Artsakh, Armenia. I'm sure most of you don't know about it because it was never involved in the news, media, nowhere. All my friends would say, "Why are you going to Armenia? The war is in Gaza." But I said, you know that ethnic cleansing happened. 120,000 Armenians were thrown out of their homes. Uh, Given 1 week, they start bombing, and then if you don't leave, you're going to continue being killed and thrown out. So that's the situation. I was born in Syria, and I was also subjected not only the collective and generational trauma from my dad, and mom is a child of survivor, but also in Syria, we were subjected to Israeli military or, military, whatever they're called, wars or mini wars, or where the airplanes would come so low that our windows very often, every couple of months, will be shattered, even though we painted it with starch and a blue color, appearing that we're not nobody's living there, but it was in vain. We had to go to sub basements and negotiate with the mice a piece of bread. And as a result of that, there's also a lot of horizontal violence. And that's what I want. I was committed to doing something about it so others would not be traumatized, or others would know how to heal from the trauma. And different countries, such as Rwanda after genocide, Japan after the earthquake, or Northridge earthquake in California, or Hurricane Katrina or Andrew in Florida. We have gone to all these disasters, human-made, natural, accidental, terrorist attacks, 9/11, always been in the forefront. First, to help the people, because what we have seen is people throw the food, water, and maybe, if you're lucky, some clothing and shelter, and then you're left alone, and NGOs start withdrawing, and people are left after 3 months in a depressed and traumatized state with nightmares, and they think they're going crazy. They don't know this is a natural reaction to an abnormal, unnatural state of being. So all these kinds of traumas I was subjected to at a very young age. And I remember secluding myself in bathrooms and crying myself, not to show my parents that I was sad from them. So we were both protecting one another, kind of. And we, with the Meaningful World, committed to helping one another. It's our motto. When one helps another, both become stronger. We don't look at it the way that, okay, we're helping others. No, we're being helped ourselves. And the other motto is shared sorrow is half sorrow, while shared joy is double joy. And we see this on a weekly basis. We have free support group every Thursday on Zoom. And we see how people come with a level of frustration, sadness, and negativity, level 9/10. And then in an hour, after empathy, validation, embracing one another, sharing resources, learning lessons, all of a sudden their levels are down to 0, 1, or 2. And we see this on an ongoing basis, that this is in fact a model that works. Of course, I said first is getting to the people, helping them, because when the trauma is not healed, it'll be chronic trauma. And that will take, as we see some Vietnam veterans we have, is still suffering from nightmares because their trauma was not addressed. In fact, they were attacked because of the Vietnam War. So we have, in fact, 6 books that I like to highlight. The last 2, one is Forget Me Not, which really describes mostly all that I'm discussing here. And this is our model that guides us through our therapeutic healing sessions, programs, etc. and then a journey of empowerment and healing and transformation that puts together 35 years of healing. And it's a coffee table book with poetry, uplifting messages and lessons from other countries. So the first step is healing and education. The second is research and publication and dissemination. So besides the 6 books you will see on our website, meaningfulworld.com, or about 100 or so refereed research articles that we have published in different American psychological and other trauma and mental health journals. The third is very important is policy revisions, advocacy, changing old and unhealthy regulations, such as in Saudi Arabia, we were very active in helping the women to drive cars and also to not be forced to wear the hijab. So that is our very important part of how we do our work. And these different books, Mass Trauma and Emotional Healing, Forgiveness and Reconciliation, etc., are all research-based and country-based. So in this book, for example, you will hear voices from Darfur to the lifers in prison to Armenia, etc., how forgiveness has helped them heal and to let go of all the anger and resentment they have towards the perpetrators, etc. So as in every country, we focus on country strengths and what other challenges they're going through. So I'm going to give a quick example. Our very first outreach was in 1988. We started with the earthquake in Armenia. Gorbachev was in New York at the time, and in fact, the aid to help the earthquake by sending those forklifters and trucks so that they can lift the stones so that they can save people, were delayed 3 days until Gorbachev went back to Moscow. At the time is Soviet, so they had to wait for his signatures to get the trucks to Armenia, and many were killed in that cold, freezing weather. So 75,000 were killed. And this is, imagine the same Richter scale as the earthquake in Northridge, 6.9 Richter scale. How many people die, you may ask, in California? 61. And how many in Armenia? 75,000. Well, a lot of questions I'm sure you have. I don't know if we have time to go into it, but
Yes.
okay. So one of the reasons is that it was Soviet Union, and the numbers, if you look at the legal official numbers, they will report 25,000 because they don't want to look bad in front of the global community that this is happening. Number two, there was no other earthquake. The past earthquake before that was 110 years ago. So it was not in the consciousness of the people. It was not transmitted through the stories. Again, it was the Soviet era. And it was shock. And that's the same time that Azerbaijan and Armenia had conflicts about the Artsakh. So a lot of the people thought it was a war. So they ran inside to the basements instead of running out. So we saw many teachers huddled with 10, 12 students in basements and inside classrooms, which was very, very painful to see. And we worked under tents to help them with art therapy and other different show and tell techniques to help them. And this is a photo of that in 1989 January because they resisted to give us visas in Moscow. They said they didn't lose their mind. They didn't go crazy. Why would they need American psychologists? They said. So we had to negotiate back and forth until we were able to secure our visas. That's another story for another time. But what we found that the short-term impact of the earthquake is the same in every country. This is Armenia, and we've gone to Pakistan, tsunami in Sri Lanka, and Japan, earthquake in Turkey, in Syria, in California. And this is universal reaction, fear and uncertainty, anger towards the leaders, such as in Andrew, for example. We were very angry about the government. And they did the same mistakes in Katrina, mind you, and it was mind-boggling. FEMA wrote a chapter, director of FEMA, in my first book, sharing the lessons that they learned from their mistakes. 1992, Hurricane Andrew. And guess what happened in 2006 in Katrina in New Orleans? They were doing the same mistakes. And I stood up and I said, I am not tolerating this. You have a chapter in my book, and you cannot make people suffer, and you're not following the protocols. And their response was, we're a different administration and we're going to do our own mistakes and learn from our own. I said, you're affecting the people and we paid for your mistakes already. Why would we have to pay again? But it was nowhere. I got a call from Washington, D.C. saying, you better close your mouth or you can leave. So I didn't want to leave the people, so I continued the work because the people needed me. And the people said it right. They said it wasn't the hurricane that is traumatizing them. It's the administration and how they handle the impact of it. So moving on to some of the challenges. So when we go to a country, we look at the past history of trauma, how it was healed or was it healed, and what are the lessons learned if they learned the lessons, and what is the ongoing issues. Well, in Armenia, there was ongoing issues, started with the earthquake, then the Azerbaijani occupation, then Iraqi refugees. When we invaded Iraq, they started coming to Armenia. And then refugees from Sumgait and Baku, then from Artsakh, then the Syrian war happened, and then more refugees from Syria. So Armenia was not able to handle that. And we see this happening in every country. When we were in Congo, the genocide, over 5 million have been killed in Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, mind you. I think there's nothing democratic in there except the name. But one trauma, before they heal from one trauma, the next one is happening. And then the people under the corruptive government, they have nothing. Congo is the richest country in Africa when you look at their minerals and diamond and other source of wealth that a lot of European countries and the government are benefiting from, and it's never trickling down to the people. And the same thing is happening in Azerbaijan as well. A lot of the oil that is sold by Azerbaijan, the people of Azerbaijan do not get that benefit, and they are very, very upset about that, of course. So what we do is the way that we help them, in these healing processes, we use the 7-step integrative healing model. So we start with the assessment that, of course, every modality from medicine to physical therapy uses assessment. There's nothing really specific about that. But the second step is based on Freudian psychodynamic catharsis that you need to release. It's like releasing the poison. If you're bit by a bee or a poisonous snake, it's not the snake that killed you, it's the poison that stays in your body. And now the research shows, Bessel van der Kolk's Body Keeps the Score, for example, indicates clearly how our emotions are impacting our physical body. The third step is Sullivanian, based on Harry Stack Sullivan, who said, without empathy, there's no closure. And he even emphasized the importance of reparation when possible, like it happened with Holocaust. And that is the only genocide that it happened with, reparation, not Cambodian, not Armenian, not Rwandan genocide, none of those genocides, no reparation except the Holocaust. And the next step is where the phoenix comes out of the ashes. And that is based on Viktor Frankl's school of thought of finding positive meaning in your negative and traumatic experience. He was a Holocaust survivor. His wife, parents, everybody was killed. And when I took a class with him, I took a few classes with him, he was jolly, throwing comic relief and jokes everywhere, drawing cartoons to me, and trying to instill humor as part of healing. And that is very important part of growing. And you know what the research is calling it now, after 100 years of after Frankel's death and his work of 100 years, they call it post-traumatic growth. And that is research based, and we have done research on that as well. And we found that people have grown by learning a positive lesson, positive meaning, like a parachute. And of course, in the beginning with the hot and heat and fire, it may be dangerous, but once you take off, you will glide through and have a beautiful view, and then feel the wind and be one in nature. And after learning lessons, we then seek for more information. For example, am I lacking in gratitude? There's a gratitude app. I might need to focus on mindfulness. There's mindfulness app. I teach yoga and using the body to stretch, and that would also help stretch our mind and be flexible in life. And and the sixth step is unique in that none of the psychological tools you see that integrate ecology. The sixth step is a very important step, integrating the importance of Mother Earth. Now, we don't think twice about cutting a tree, and we don't call that terrorism. But, when we impact a human being, hurt human being, then we call it names, or take something away from someone, that would be theft. But we do that with trees. Like I've seen in my neighborhood, people cutting trees because it's inconvenient. There are too many leaves in the it really is unfortunate how far we are from embracing Mother Earth. And I think that a lot of healing will come naturally if we're one with Mother Nature. So we work very much with that, the sixth step, nurturing Mother Earth. With our Peace and Forgiveness Gardens, we have a Plant a Tree project. When we were in Kenya, we planted the 12 trees. When we were in Haiti, when we were in Puerto Rico, after the 2 devastating hurricanes, we planted 15 palm trees. In Armenia, the same, because people need the trees. The research shows that we need minimum 18 trees in where we are living. Now, we may not be fortunate, and people may be mindless and have cut the trees. If you're not surrounded at least by 10 or 18 trees, then make sure your pathway of walking includes some trees, so that you get, like in Japan, they say forest bathing, feel that the heartbeat of the trees and the soil, etc. So for emotional intelligence, we use the managing your emotions handout where we have different emotions, they negative emotions. They may all turn into anger if it's not managed. That's why we try to do our support groups weekly so people can let go and not let the anger build up, because once it becomes anger, then it's a poison. We are carrying a poison in our body. So, are you emotionally intelligent? That's another lecture, but it's something to think about. For horizontal violence, a lot of people don't know that or don't use this. We call it crab in the bucket syndrome. We didn't call this, African Americans call it in the South, when black on black violence and hatred starts, they say, don't be crab in the bucket. So what it is internalizing the perpetrator's mindset, the colonizer's mindset, and start preferring the other, the colonizer, the other, whoever the stronger the other is, and then putting your own kind down with sly remarks, gossip, negativity, this not appreciation, etc. So we take these huge banners, at least 50 of them, wherever we do workshops in that country, in their own language. We gift them and we ask that they display it in a public place so that everyone would be able to see it. And in Haiti, they told us, we need to start from the airport all the way down to the cities, because this is our Haitian problem. The funny thing is that every country thinks that it is their disease. In Sierra Leone, they told me it's their disease. What they call there? Putting down syndrome. Oh, we know what that is. When we talked about horizontal violence, we call it putting down syndrome. In Haiti, the same. In Armenia, they were like, you're not going to change us. This is in our DNA. It's like gone so deep. And they were like hopeless about even possible change. So empathy is not something that we teach in schools, and I think if we can have this integrated in Bob's signature message to integrate EQ, because every country we go, we try to see Minister of Education and Health to tell them that they need to integrate the emotional intelligence and empathy in their curriculum, because it's very hard as an adult to learn it. Of course, you can learn it until you're 100 years old or after. It's the commitment to learn it. We can nurture its growth throughout our lives, and it's easy to learn, and once you know the importance of it. But you know what the research shows that we've done? If you are traumatized, you will have a lot of challenge in empathizing with the other, because you have so much need to heal. You need to heal first and then be able to be empathized. I've seen this when I worked in Armenia, for example. I'll give the fresh example. When they were being ethnically cleansed, there was no President Biden getting involved, none of the presidents getting involved, nobody talking about it. 2 weeks later, Gaza happens, and they see on their phones every country is talking about it. And their question was, weren't we humans? They were silent for a whole month and we lost everything. Then they said nothing. And now they're awakened. Why? Why is it that they're different than us? Why can't they empathize with us? Why can't they talk about us? The same thing happened when we were working with the African American kids in Harlem in a grade school. And the shooting happened in a very in Connecticut in a what shall I say, affluent society. And the kids in Harlem say, "Why? I see kids dying and killed in my street every day. Nobody talks about it, and now all of a sudden we're going to hear this Connecticut thing every day." So when you're traumatized, you need time to heal, and it's challenging to really put your feelings aside so you can really understand and put your feet in the other person's shoes. So before we embark on a mission, I just wanted to quickly show our steps. We have a pre-assessment, like we're going to go to Uganda, hopefully in the summer. We have started already from January studying Uganda, their needs, their challenges, their coping, socioeconomic climate, political situation, neighborhood, like neighbors, countries that neighboring, etc. And when it comes time to assessment, we're already in the country. We make another assessment. In the meantime, we are negotiating with all the key leaders in that university, professors, deans, orphanage directors, domestic violence centers. And these are secret in a lot of countries. They would not give you that information because they're scared the husbands are coming and killing their wives, even in domestic protection, violence protection centers. So then we analyze and we look at the community at large, political, government, university, non-NGOs, UN in that country, etc. And then we start the planning and implement it, and then we evaluate and then remodify as needed. So these are the steps that we use for our missions. Positive lessons that the people have learned are the following. It takes tragedy to unite people. A lot of the 9/11 survivors have told me that, how New York City neighborhood, they became like one. It was a honeymoon phase, immediately after a disaster, it's the honeymoon phase. The problem is we then have amnesia and we forget our lessons. So now New York is still very challenging place because they forgot the lessons that they learned after 9/11. After 9/11, they said they expressed love towards family, friends, and loved ones, and they were saying it more often than before the terrorism. They were not taking life for granted, and they were caring for themselves more. In fact, there was a survey showing that right after September, in a month of November, after the terrorism, membership in health clubs increased 50%. Others told me that they turned helplessness into empowerment by cooking for neighbors, taking care of, babysitting for the neighbors' children, and making it a one family. And they also mentioned that they are living every day as if it was their last, to focusing on what they can do better, how they can make other people happy, and how they can restore their faith. So that brings me, we have also done 12 years of Turkish Armenian Reconciliation Commission groups, and continued challenges with that. We are now engaging in Armenian and Azerbaijani dialogue groups, as well as Armenian Turkish think tank, because the problem is continuing. Armenia is surrounded by Turkey on one side, Azerbaijan on the other. So they're being squeezed. A little piece every 2 years been taken away from Armenia. So we are very, very upset about this situation, but we are focusing on what we can be and what we can do to be the arrow so that we can turn in negativity, revenge into respect, retaliation into restitution, resent into renew, resist into reconciliation, refusal to resolution, repel into reframe, and repress into regroup, so that together we can shift the world. This is a sculpture. I'm not sure if you've seen in um, Cathedral St. John the Divine. Oops, sorry. I tried to show, and let me go to the end show. All right. So the sculpture is made by Native American. And if you see, there is a large human silhouette and then a smaller and a smaller and smaller. And I was going to enlarge it, but that wasn't successful. There's a red dot at the end, which is the unborn fetus. So the message is that in all of our deliberations to be mindful of our impact on the next 7 generations. In fact, we have done research ourselves. You will see the publication is published on our website. And we have seen second and third generations of Ottoman Turkish genocide survivors' children. And we have seen the same negative emotions of helplessness, anger, and fear in the next 2 generations. Of course, this is also, you will see a lot of this research in the Holocaust studies as well. They have a lot of research on that, but you will see our research on our website. And I like to conclude with this wonderful tapestry of beautiful valley in southern India, between Kadamath and Badrinath Valley. And this is a work on one woman consistently every year before she began. It was rocky and ugly, just a valley with the earth and rocks. And she committed to every spring bring perennial flower bulbs and flower seeds to this valley. And over 25 years, look at how beautiful. And it's just like the purple that Bob was talking about, the yellow for the solar plexus, and the orange for the second energy center, and the green for the heart, and the white. It's just wonderful tapestry that is like a rainbow. At the same time, is also all the chakra colors. And most of all, she's long been passed on, and her work is passed on through media and lectures to everyone, because this is my favorite message. I like to share it, and I do share it in every lecture. So my question to you is, I know I'm preaching to the choir. Where are your seeds? Where are your flower bulbs? And where are you planting them? And how committed you are to and continue nurturing them. Thank you for your attention.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Annie, that
Beautiful.
was wonderful. If you could stop sharing your screen
Of
for a
course.
moment. And I actually am going to be the first person to ask you a question because I am second generation Armenian. And my grandparents, who I never met, both the grandfather and grandmother survived the Armenian genocide. It was so painful that my mother shut down every time she started to talk about the stories that she heard because the tortures were horrific. And if you've ever seen the movie The Promise,
Yes.
they don't even go into some of the real horror that I mean, I'm not going to go into it. But what I would like to ask you is that the denial that this ever happened continues to this day. There was even a professor at Princeton University who stated that the Armenian genocide, which happened 2 times at least in Turkey, never happened. And this, I can't tell you as a second generation person how upsetting this is just to hear that it never happened. Can you address that? How how you see that as
Of
part of the
course,
trauma?
we have done when we did the research with the survivors themselves, and they were 70, 75 years old, good old, wonderful grandmas, grandpas. They were so sweet until the end of the interview that addressed denial. They became a different person. They started cursing. I was shocked. They were like, what, they were like, we have to stay traumatized in order to prove that this happened. Well, why is the world silence about it? Why is that some people are getting reparation and some people are getting denial? They were extremely, extremely frustrated with the denial, and it sounded like they did not want to even heal because they wanted to prove that they were traumatized, that this happened. So broke my heart. We still did the healing sessions afterwards with a group of them. But that's what a lot of people think about it, that the only 32 countries out of 200 accept or acknowledge that the genocide happened. And Biden was finally, when he was became our president, he also accepted it. That was the first for America, which was embarrassing, really. And Uruguay accepted it before USA, imagine. So it's very disheartening to know that it's very challenging for Turkey as well, because it's been 100 and almost 10 years of denial. So it's like they find themselves in this dilemma. How long are they going to lie? How are they going to save face and say, yes, it happened? But at that time, the genocide word was not created. In fact, Lampkin mentioned it, genocide, talking about Armenian at the UN meeting, and we have that on recording. But a lot of the scholars, even when I went to help in Turkey, I was subjected to threats to my life. Meat came to kill me, and they threatened to kill my family because I was talking about the genocide. And talking about genocide, they have Article 301, which says that anything against the state, you would be either killed or imprisoned. And my friend was killed in 2007. He
I
was
heard I
a
heard
journalist.
that
Yeah,
journalists, present day journalists who
right,
use the word genocide, who write about it, are
right.
killed in Turkey, and they are Turkish citizens.
Yes,
And
Turkish citizens. Yes, they
and
escape here or to Germany because they would be subjected to the same torture and imprisonment like to Armenians.
and also it's been eliminated, I heard, eliminated in the history books. It's not taught. It's taboo.
It's even worse than that. I went to the Turkish on the elementary schools, and what they teach them is that Armenian caused the genocide to
Oh
Turkey.
yeah.
And Armenians killed 350,000 Turks. This is what they have in their history book. So, what do you expect from a population who has heard Armenia is a curse word? Their president Erdogan said. And I heard him say that, can you imagine they called me Armenian? How dare they curse at me? This is what he said on television, their Turkish television. So it's sad, but we can't really let that ignorance stop us. We have to continue being the light and share these like wonderful program you have here. Well, I'm glad about it, and although not the 100 that you expected are here, but afterwards we will disseminate it through our
Yes.
circles so people will know about
Right.
it. Yes.
Can you let us know about how you get funding for your program and also speak about the mind body practices that you introduce to these traumatized areas?
Right. So, the funding is like a miracle, basically miracle based, which is not very scientific, right? Miracle based, but we don't have set external funding, and what we do is we do a lot of outreach to our family, friends, and people like you, and 100 here, 500 here, and then the volunteers that go with us on a mission, they do their own GoFundMe outreach and fundraising so that they can get their own airfare and stuff, and I help them with their stay and food or whatever we can. So it's a kind of a needing a whole village to be involved in a way. So the whole village is involved through Meaningful World Family, our families, individual families from Meaningful World members, their own circles. So it's a kind of a passion, work of passion. And when because we are a volunteer organization and none of our team members, myself or anyone gets paid. So whenever we apply actually for funding, they say, wow, you've done so much, like 100 missions in 50 countries and 7 regions of the world with no external funding. I think we should learn what you're doing. You should continue what you're doing. But it's exhausting, after a while, of course. Yeah, without my continued kind of calling 5 people a day, emailing 10 people a week kind of a goal, I don't think it will work out.
And thank you. We've been putting in the chat, how to get in touch with you. It is a nonprofit, so it's tax deductible, to support your work. Could you address the different mind body practices such as the flower essence, the Reiki? What
Yes,
else?
yes. Actually, I am so glad that you mentioned that because we have especially the for justice, because a lot of Palestine, Armenia, Congo, they all talk about their feelings are not just grief and loss, but their feelings are, this is not fair, this is not just. So we do have grief relief, which is it's from Fest Flower Essence Society. So this grief relief is great for sorrow and bringing insight into our loss and experience. And this one is specially made for generational trauma. It's called Ancestry Align. We spent months discussing with the Fest Flowers, because they know I've been using this for 30 years and they know we were going to Armenia and they wanted to help and they donated 100 pounds of these that we took to Armenia and to Syria. Now, I couldn't go to Syria, but because every time I tried to book my ticket, Israeli military bombed the Syrian Aleppo airport. Now, did you hear about that?
No.
And this happens every 2 months. Lebanon airport gets blown up by Israeli military, and then they alternate: Aleppo, Damascus, Lebanon, Beirut, Aleppo, Damascus, Beirut. So they do this all the time so that help is not going there, because I tried like so many, 3 times last year, 3 times the year before, I couldn't get there. But this is excellent. I tried this as well. Ancestry Align. It has a combination of different flowers, natural flowers. And then
Can we buy that through your website? Can we purchase it through your website?
I'll put the Fest Flower website, because we don't sell the stuff, but the Fest Flowers does it, and festflowers.com.
Thank you. And then you also have volunteers. Thank you so much. You have volunteers that go with you that do Reiki, and what other types of mind-body practices?
I teach yoga, and we have created soul surfing. Soul surfing is yoga like Tai Chi like movements, with combined with affirmations, color consciousness. Let's say we're working with the crown chakra. We
Mhm.
talk about the crown and the purple, deep purple color. We talk about different ways to increase our connection to Mother Earth and their spiritual energy and the galaxies. We have affirmations saying, I am connected to God and deity and galaxies. I am in balance. And we have 2 or 3 for each energy center. And we have oils, essential oils that we use for each energy center. I have rosemary with me today. But we have for each specific energy center specific oils.
And did
And
you create that protocol
yes,
where,
yes, soul
and
surfing it's called. You will see a video, and I think the protocol is on the website as well. If it's not, I will be happy to send it to you, to send it to your constituency or members.
wonderful.
Mhm.
I'm going to open this up to anyone else who would, if you or scroll down your cursor to the bottom of the page, there should be of reactions. If you want to put your hand up on the reactions, it's under the 3 dots at the bottom, more, and then you go to the reactions and raise your hand, and we'll take questions from the audience. So I'll look through. If anybody has a question, please feel free to ask Dr. Annie. But thank you, Dr. Annie. Your work is inspiring. It's wonderful that there are people like yourself out there who take the mind body practices, and you also have the psychology too, and you put it all together, and you're doing this. So Bill.
And, I didn't have a chance to talk a lot about the research, but I did. Let me quickly mention that in every country, we do the research, and in every country, it's been. We're delighted to see we're more human than otherwise, and that when people have meaning before the trauma, not searching, but meaning, they have already said they know what the meaning of life is, then the level of trauma is low. But when they're in search or they have no set meaning, they're not grounded, their level of trauma is high. And when their practice of forgiveness is high, their level of trauma is low. So that is consistent in every country with that we have been.
Thank you. So Bill, do you have a question for Dr. Annie?
Well, uh, I did want to share something with you, and that is uh, it was the work that you're doing was very close to my heart, and it's so good to connect with people like yourself that are doing the kind of things that you're doing, because it reminds us, just how beautiful human beings can be.
Yeah.
And people are beautiful, and I'm always encouraging people to keep things in perspective, because yes, the world's not perfect, there are things that are happening around the world, but people like yourself, Siobhan, the people that I've surrounded myself with, and the people that I just meet, it's people are good, and I feel like we're really close to a much different planet, and I think we're getting closer to it all the time. And in fact, I really think that I think there's an awakening going on around the planet, and it really bodes well for the future. And one of the things that you touched on was kind of our ancestral roots and how that can be channeled into creating a precious gem through the pressure that we went through. And I really resonated with that because my father was, like most Americans, I didn't experience war as a child, because that's one thing about Americans that we should be conscious of, that we've never experienced war. And so we should be open and empathetic to hear what other people are saying who have experienced that. But I did grow up in a post-traumatic stress disorder home because my father was in frontline combat for 3 years during World War II. He was in 4 beach landings, North Africa, Italy, France, Germany. And so he brought like veterans do, he brought the war home with him. And I didn't experience the violence that my older siblings did, but I did experience pretty intense childhood. And it was a mixed bag because on the one hand, I had a real visceral experience of what war does to people, how it can shatter their soul.
Yes.
And then I witnessed my father trying to re-find his soul over the course of his life. But he also shared insights with me that really stuck with me. And one of the things that he lamented, because he talked to me, I was a very young boy, but he talked to me about these things because I think he felt safe talking to me. And one of the big things that he lamented was, he said, the war was horrible for all of us, but he said for the civilians, he said, you can't imagine how hard it was for the civilians. And so then that drove me to mind body eventually in my mid 20s, because I started having children, and I started reacting to my children in the same way that my father had reacted to us. And I didn't want to continue that. And so that drove me to mind body meditation, Tai Chi, yoga, Qigong, mindfulness. And eventually what happened was, as a young man, I ended up serving under the United Nations High Commission on Refugees in Central America in the 80s during the Dirty Wars. And I served in a Salvadoran refugee camp in Honduras near the Salvadoran-Honduran border, El Mesa Grande, which was 20,000 Salvadoran peasant refugees, and then also a Guatemalan refugee camp. And that showed me many things. One of the things that it showed me was that I'd always been raised, I grew up with John F. Kennedy and Camelot and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that showed me when I went to Central America was that we'd always been raised to think that our country was perfect and that other countries were evil. What I realized when I got down there was we were on the wrong side of all those wars down there. And that's why all those people are coming up to our borders right now, because we wrecked those countries. And then the other thing that I realized when I got back was that our media doesn't tell us what's really going on.
Exactly.
And so that was a huge thing for me. And I ended up becoming like a human rights and anti-war, anti-nuclear, nuclear freeze activist over 40 years of my life, off and on. And and then ultimately, so I was doing two things. I was active politically or socially, and but then at the same time, I was practicing mind body and going through a personal awakening of my own, forgiving and getting in touch with my own empathy and my own compassion through the practice of meditative practices. And the science shows that it changes our brain. It makes us more empathetic and compassionate. And so then eventually that led to our organizing World Tai Chi Day. And so we got people all over the planet to do Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, yoga, mindfulness, all together as one mind-body family for a 24-hour period. And then we found out from Dr. Roger Nelson from the Princeton University Anomalies Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory, who founded the Global Consciousness Project, that during that 24-hour period, we had actually had a measurable impact on creating greater coherence in global consciousness during that 24-hour period. And I had been collecting research from the Transcendental Meditation Foundation, which has been published in crime journals all over the planet,
Right.
that when you get a small number of high-level meditators in a city's population, it dramatically reduces the violent crime rates in that city. And
Yes,
so then I
30%
start,
is what I read the last TM research paper. It was said that it decreases 30% at least.
yeah,
Yeah.
in Washington, D.C., I think they got up to 23% is what they got up to. But they did it in 48 other cities, and they had, that same positive effect in 48
Yes.
other cities, and it lasted 5 years. And
Yeah.
so, when we go into these meditative states, it increases the empathy and compassion parts of the brain. And when you look at the science, human beings are naturally wired for compassion. Our DNA structure actually resonates to compassion. But then when we go through a trauma, all that can get distorted and shook up. But then, and we all go through traumas, even people who haven't been through war or anything like that, just our lives. But the mind-body practices help us get in touch with that childlike, magical quality of huge empathy. Children are very empathetic creatures. And so as we were becoming aware of this science, we became aware of other science, and that science showed that it is really crazy that we're not teaching mind-body practices in public education, because the science shows that regular meditators increase their IQ by 20 points, GRE reading scores improve, verbal fluency improves, math proficiency skills improve, bullying rates go down, sickness goes down, focus, test scores go up. All the things that you'd want students to be able to do. Any rational teacher would want this if they knew the science. And so we realized that if we could, when we get a United Nations resolution advocating mind-body practices for public education worldwide, and it wouldn't be mandated or anything, but it'd just be used in the UN General Assembly as a vehicle to educate educators all over the planet, so that we can start teaching these kids, because it would transform the educational system. But while it's doing that, it's going to be making their empathy and compassion parts of their brains bigger. And we know from the Global Consciousness Project research that our brains, our thoughts don't stop at our skull, our brain waves don't stop at our skull. So we could be actually shifting the empathy and compassion of the entire planet by introducing hundreds of millions of new meditating minds into the planet via a United Nations resolution to get 1 hour a day mind-body practice in public education. And it would be to all these countries' own advantage, because they'd all be saving hundreds of millions or even trillions of dollars in saved healthcare costs and social costs, because prisons that use this, their violence rates go way down. And so it'd be in countries' economic self-interest to do it. Their education systems would love it because it'd make smarter kids, and the world would be saving trillions of dollars, and the consciousness of the entire planet would be fed with this larger empathy and compassion that we know affects cities, like you just mentioned earlier with that study. And it would be so easy to do. And we have a precedent, because in 2015, the United Nations General Assembly voted in a resolution creating the International Day of Yoga to increase global health and harmony. And so we refer to that in our resolution to the United Nations. So we have a precedent, and that UN International Yoga Day resolution was voted in by a record number of co-sponsoring nations, 177 co-sponsoring nations. And so this is doable. And no generation in history has had the mountain of science of mind-body practices that we have right now. And so it's time for humanity to do this, because it would just transform the planet.
No, you're so right. And we have a question from somebody in the audience for Dr. Annie. They would like you to speak more about listening to the earth to lead us preventing.
Before you get into that, I'm sorry, Siobhan, before you get into that, I was leading up to a point. And the point was that we invite all of our guests, Dr. Annie, to join us by adding your name to it's real straightforward. It's a resolution advocating mind-body education for public education worldwide. And if you would add your name to it, you'd be in a very esteemed group of people.
Sure, why not? Of course.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, we're building a global coalition of leading minds in science, health, education, mind, body, who just see that it's just time for something like this to happen.
Thank you, Bill. And we could talk more about this. I know that Dr. Ani has another function to go to, but we do have a question. And Bill, we'll come back to this more later. Okay.
Okay, great.
She wants to see if you could speak more about how listening to the earth can lead us to preventing more destruction of habitats, clean air, water, and clean air justice. So
That's this is one of the part of sustainable development goals: clean air, clean water, water justice, and we've been working very hard in like Haiti, helping them getting filters for the orphanage. So we work with 6 orphanages. At least in every country. In Guatemala, in Haiti, they were having difficulty with no water. And immediately after the earthquake and after the genocide in Guatemala, there was a limited help by UNICEF and by UN. But then, this is the misconception that the, the disasters are happening so rapidly and so frequently and so with so much damage, because in 90 when we started 88 to 95, and we conducted research for our first book, which is focusing on disaster and mass trauma and how mental health and mind body can help. At that time, the research showed that we were having disaster every 2-3 years in the world. And since 2000, it has been every year, multiple in every country, like 3 disasters happening. Let's take last year, ethnic cleansing in Armenia by Azerbaijan, the terrorism, and then Israeli military offense destruction in Gaza, and the earthquake in Turkey and Syria, all happened in the same year and continued the conflict and slash genocide in Congo. And in each moment, there's like 38. I didn't check today, but last week there was 38 active wars or military interventions going on. So these are all, a lot of cause of water injustice, air, because these ammunitions and all the war-related stuff is very dangerous to not just humans, but to the earth. The destruction, the fires, the poisons, the chemicals they used, Azerbaijan used, the drones and all that, is destroying the environment as well, and a big time. So it's a collective, the goals are there, and the UN tries to educate people and brings issues at hand through these 17 sustainable goals. But the problem is just like there's no monetary system. Let's talk about the Declaration of Human Rights. There's no human rights when you go anywhere, including America. And what happened to the beautiful book and Declaration of UN's human rights? And it's wonderful. It's, a publication. But when we go to other countries, we tell them, where is the UN Declaration of Human Rights? What are you using? I mean, even with the ministers of health, education, social welfare, etc., they're like, oh, it's somewhere, we don't know. So they don't even have it. They don't use it. They don't practice it. So we try to teach every country about the UN Declaration for Human Rights, the Sustainable Development Goals, their rights that for peaceful protest to ask for their rights in education, in water, in this, in that, but there's so much need. It's like you have to make a priority. And for us, the emotional healing is a priority because that is totally ignored. And I hope that there are other, organizations that focus directly on listening to the earth. And what we do is we have the peace and forgiveness gardens where we plant herbs and specific things like lavender, rosemary, things that are beneficial for their emotional and physical healing, and then a space for them to come and be mindful, meditate. And there's a facilitator, so they will help them with their conflict or trauma or whatever they're going through. And planting trees, giving that consciousness. You can we have those projects at Meaningful World. If you're interested, you can donate, and we can try to plant a tree either in Armenia, Haiti, or Africa. You can decide where you want it to be planted in your name.
Dr. Ani, one of the things that I found really pretty profound as I was collecting all this science that I collected for 40 years for this book that I wrote, that became the Global Transformation Project's inspiration, that when we go into the meditative state, the alpha theta state, we're going into a vibratory rate of the brain that's the equivalent of the vibratory rate of the planet Earth. And then when we do the Om sound, that's 432 hertz. That's the background vibration of the entire universe. And so, as the quantum physicist said, consciousness is behind everything. So everything that we see in the world, in the modern world, it all started from the spark of human consciousness. And so, as we get these mind-body practices into public education, because it's so obvious and so practical, we'll be taking people's minds into this alpha theta state where children are a lot of the times. And it brings us into a real connected state with the planet Earth because we're vibrating at the same frequency. And the decisions that we make will be influenced by that resonant vibratory rate with the planet Earth. And then we'll be more empathetic and compassionate. And also, the science shows that the students will also start thinking more in gamma wave consciousness, which is multidimensional problem solving, a more elegant form of consciousness. And so a lot of these problems that we're going to work out, of course, we have to operate in a linear left brain world to make things happen. But when we go to the core of consciousness and we nurture the core of human connection with the vibratory rate and the resonance of the planet Earth, I know this can sound poetic and meaningless, but it's not, because the science shows this is how we change the planet. So educating children all over the planet, and I'm so glad that you joined with us on this, I think this can have a profound impact on our connection, with this planet Earth, and that it'll end up in resulting in, children all over the world who are going to become adults and, doing things to have a real care for that sacred connection that we have with planet Earth. And it's a very healing connection. Science shows that. When, just like you were saying, have trees around you, walk through trees. The research shows this is a very effective tool for getting grounded and becoming more happy.
Yes, indeed, definitely. In fact, they had separated one of the APA, American Psychological Association studies. They divided the classroom into two, and one side was looking over a tree and garden, and the other side was overlooking towards the parking lot and another building's back. So they turned them around and said, this half will look at the trees for 15 minutes and the other half would look at the parking lot with the wall. Mm-hmm. After 15 minutes, they gave them one mathematical challenging question and then an artistic drawing or writing, whichever one they chose. Mm-hmm. And the group that was looking at the trees and the garden were able to excel. They were able to respond to the mathematical equation correctly, and then they were more creative in their artistic expression.
Yeah, Harvard did a study in hospitals with patients, and they had patients that had a view of like a park or
Yes.
something, and then they had ones that just had a wall, and they healed much faster. And
Yeah.
then we've had Dr. CJ Rhodes, who helps organize these video programs that we do. She did multiple studies with students, and she had students doing hard exercise, doing studying before a test, and then she had another group doing qigong meditation. In every case, the Qigong meditation group always scored higher because, again, when you go into that meditative state, you're communing with the Earth's frequency.
Mhm.
Because I do executive presentations, and I've had executives walk up to me and they go, I don't need this meditation stuff. I golf for stress, or I go fishing for stress. And I say, yeah, and when you do that, you're going into a meditative state. But when you're having a bad day at work or a conflict with somebody, you can't run off to the golf course or the fishing hole, but you
Yeah.
can go in your office and close the door and meditate.
Right.
And so we'd be giving kids tools where they would take that nature with them wherever they go. Of course, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still get in nature, because then you can get even more benefit from it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. This is exciting. It means so much to me to meet people like you and hear what you're doing. It really does my heart good.
Yeah. It's amazing to find like-minded people that I can connect.
I'm finding more and more all the time. The more I talk, the more I open my heart and I'm authentic with people, the more I realize people are a lot more awake. They're a lot more compassionate. They're a lot more empathetic than the mass media culture makes us think. They make us think that everybody's shallow and everybody's disconnected. And if you immerse yourself in the media, you kind of get this kind of snarky attitude that people are stupid, and they're not like me. But if you get away from all that and you just actually start talking to human beings, it really reinstills your faith in humanity and the potential of humanity.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough for being here today. It's really beautiful.
Oh, it's my pleasure and an honor to connect with everyone here.
And for joining with us in the Global Transformation Project.
Yes, definitely.
And if people stay, we have a giveaway and two
Yes.
announcements. So, Dr. Annie, it's up to you if you want to stay with us a little bit longer or if you have
Um,
to run.
I have to run in 2 minutes, but I wanted to share that we have a workshop next Saturday for I will, what I can do is you have my email, but I can put it here for everybody
Yes,
to email
please.
me.
And what is the workshop next Saturday?
The next Saturday workshop is on self-care and meaning making. And also we have a visionary speaker who just published a book at age 82 about the gifts of grieving, treasures of grief. So she will be addressing the treasures, 7 treasures of grief.
And where will this be held?
It's a hybrid, so it will be held in my classroom in Cliffside Park or on Zoom. So when you
Oh,
email
great.
me, let me know which modality you prefer so we can get you proper information.
Wonderful. Now, someone just asked about a Thursday grief group.
Yes, so the support group that is free Thursdays at noon. And again, send me an email so I can send this link, the Zoom link.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for all that you share, all that you give. You are
If
one of the practitioners that walks the walk. So
Yeah.
thank
and
you.
if you just want us to use the bio that we have for you to put on our list of supporters, but if you have any links, any informational links that you would like us to include with that, please email them to us, and then I'll put it up on the Global Transformation Project under the supporters, the scientists, and all the
Yeah, you
Okay.
have the books and you have
Yeah,
your
the books
workshops.
and workshops and the support group. Yes, I will.
Yeah, all that, anything like that, if you can include it in the email, and I'll put it right up on the page. Yeah, that'd be great.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you so much. My heart is so warm and so just want to burst in hugging,
Well,
hugging you.
Well, we're gonna get this resolution. We're gonna get mind body into public education. We're gonna transform the planet. So
Right.
please tell everybody that you know about the petition at globaltransformationproject.org and ask them to spread the word. Once we get 100,000 signatures, then we're going to go to every United Nations mission on the planet. But we want to have at least we really think we should be able to have millions of signatures behind this,
Right.
and we're going to make it happen. I mean, it's just too obvious that it should happen. You know what I mean? Once you think about it, you just think, yeah, oh my God, why isn't that happening?
Yes, yes, that's right. That's right. I wish you success and will be with you supporting in any way I can.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Have a
Thank
blessed
you,
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay, Bill.
I got a book to give away.
Yes, but first we have two big announcements. So
Okay.
Dr. Annie, you can stay with us or we'll say goodbye.
Goodbye.
We have two big announcements. We have two anniversaries to celebrate. I bet you didn't realize that.
No.
First anniversary is this is the first year of our global transformation project. We started filming and producing these programs last February. So, Bill, congratulations. Thank you for
You too.
creating the Global Transformation Project. And also, the biggest news is that this year is the 25th anniversary of World Tai Chi and Qigong Day that you and Angela Douglas founded 25 years ago. And if Angela could join us
Angie, you there?
we would appreciate it. But the last Saturday in April every year around the world is World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, where different schools and people practice and videotape themselves and send them to Bill. And he's had some extraordinary videos from all over the world, all different practices to inspire people to learn more about the profound effects, health, mind, body, and spirit of these practices. So thank you, Bill and Angela.
Yeah, what we did on that was we held a local event here in Kansas City 26 years ago, and then we got all the media to come, and then when the media came, we just took the microphone and just started educating the public about the science on mind-body practices and how it could transform their life. And then we created the website, and then we taught Tai Chi and Qigong and mind-body teachers all over the planet, yoga teachers, meditation teachers. Well, we gave them a medical research library so they could come to worldtaichiday.org and they can get the research on all the mind-body practices, how it can help people with most all the common illnesses that people are dealing with. But they don't hear about it on TV because it doesn't make anybody billions of dollars. That's the only reason you don't hear about this science on TV. And so the organizers, they created these spectacular visual events, with like, dozens or hundreds or even thousands of people in some countries doing Tai Chi and Qigong together. And so it was so visually spectacular that the news cameras couldn't resist coming to cover it. And then we gave them, we gave all the organizers the medical research and taught them, when you get that microphone, teach your, your local public about this science. And so that's how we educated over $1 billion, or $1 billion. There was no money behind this. Trust me, it was all green. It was all organic, grassroots. But we educated over 1 billion people around the planet about mind-body science, and it was
Bill,
all just from.
It was a seed. You and Angela planted a seed, and it just shows you the power that we all have.
That's right.
with our passion to create this. So
right.
I hope you have the t-shirt to show everybody.
I
And
don't,
then
and yeah, and Angie's out, but it's real dark purple with gold lettering, very auspicious for the 25th anniversary. This is what it looks like, but it's purple t-shirt, gold, one world, one breath, and 41 languages on the back.
so if they
But
go on the
yeah,
website,
if anybody wants to get a World Tai Chi Day t-shirt, there's a short window to get it because World Tai Chi Day is rolling right up. So if you go to worldtaichiday.org, you can find in one of the tabs official t-shirts, and but you need to order right away because just as soon as possible.
I will put that in chat. And then Bill, do you want to talk about the giveaway?
Yes, I do. Yes, I'm going to share. Can I share a screen, Siobhan?
Yes, I think I
Okay.
think I think you can do it now. That
Okay.
because I
All right. Well, I'll talk while I'm doing it. Yeah. So anyway, so I spent 40 years. I didn't realize what I was doing. When I started practicing mind body practices, you start having experiences, and I was doing them all, mostly Tai Chi and Qigong, but also yoga, meditation, and it's all mindfulness. And then what happened was you start having experiences, and I started trying to understand them scientifically, and I ended up collecting 40 years of science on mind body practices and consciousness. And it just led me to realize that let me get this set up and then I'll come back. It just led me to realize that these things can transform the whole planet. And so it all became a book, this 40 years of collected science. And
called The Gospel of Science,
yeah,
which
the
has
new
so
second
much
edition.
information.
And yeah, and then that led to the realization of the Global Transformation Project, that we should get this stuff in public education because it would save society trillions of dollars and saved healthcare costs and social costs. And so anyway, so I put 40 years into collecting the science, and then I spent years into actually making a book out of it. And it's meticulously endnoted, just like a textbook. So it was a massive amount of work. And so you can't imagine how painful it is for somebody that spent 40 years producing something to give it away. But that's what I'm doing. Today it's free on Amazon. And it'll also be free in about a month from now for one day because Amazon only gives you so many days that you can give it away. So I've maxed out my giveaways. I got two, one today and one in a month from now. And so anyway, I'm giving this book away on Amazon Kindle all day today until midnight tonight, Central Standard Time.
Do you have the
And
link, Bill?
just go to Amazon and then search New Second Edition, The Gospel of Science. Well, go to Amazon, search Kindle
I'll try to
books.
do that now.
Yeah, and then you get the New Second Edition. Okay, so now what I'm gonna show you now is it was a educational promo for the book, but it gives you a real overview of just how profound all this can be, not just for our own lives, but definitely for our own lives, but also for our planet. And it's huge. And so this, bear with me and watch through this, and this will give you a lot of information about the book, but it'll also give you a lot of information about a lot of the other stuff I've been talking about. And please share this with other people today because they can all get this book for free. 700 pages, meticulously endnoted, free. It will give you a much more positive way of seeing the world when you see this science. And it's science we should be hearing about on TV, but we don't.
Timothy Burke, a video editor in Tampa, Florida, collected 44 versions of that editorial from 44 local news markets and lay them side by side, allowing Americans to play them back word for word.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
The effect was chilling.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Orwellian.
It was actually fairly horrifying. About a minute and a half up.
Murder rates across the U.S. are rising. A recent report shows major cities saw a 33% jump in homicides in 2020. According to the Major Cities Chiefs Association, the vast majority of the 66 largest police jurisdictions saw a spike in violent crime last year, and that trend is expected to continue.
Population keeps on bleeding, nation bleeding, still more bleeding economy. Life is funny, skies are sunny, bees make honey, who needs money, monopoly.
But, it's like I'm just looking for solutions. And, earlier you're talking about the mass shootings. And Joe Rogan, took some heat because he said that it was a mental health issue. And I absolutely agree with him.
If you murder somebody, you have mental health issues.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're
a murderer, if you're not defending yourself against a psychopath,
yeah, that's right.
You may be the psychopath.
Yeah. If you pack on a backpack with lots of extra ammo and you bring in an AK-47 and you go walk into a school, then you've probably got some emotional issues. But the thing is that there's a way to solve this, and that's what the global transformation project that we're involved in, that I was mentioned earlier, is about. And what we're pushing for is a United Nations resolution. It would be non-binding. No country, no school, and no student would have to participate in it. But what we want to do is we want to expose the world and public educators worldwide through a UN resolution to the science on mind-body practices for public education. And anybody who's listening, if you hang on and listen to this program, I've got some science that is just gonna alter the way that you view reality in some profound ways. But one of the things that happens when people practice, what are mind-body practices? Well, the big five that have the massive science behind them are meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, and mindfulness. And what they all do is they bring the brain waves into the alpha theta state. That's the meditative state. And the effects this has on the health of the body and the DNA expression and just all kinds of aspects of our being and consciousness are really profound. But one of the things that they found is that when people practice regular meditation, it actually shrinks the stress and fear part of their brain, and it increases the size of the empathy and compassion parts of their brain. And so what you see in schools that employ mind-body practices, because some schools have already done it, is you see a dramatic reduction in bullying rates. And what got me thinking down these lines was I did a presentation at Folsom Prison many years ago, and they brought me in to teach meditation and Tai Chi to the inmates, and I didn't realize it at the time, but they had had a program there for 2 years, a meditation program, a Tai Chi Chug program, and they not only had they brought down the violent incident rates for the participants in the group, but there was a reduction in violent incident rates for the whole prison. And the whole prison wasn't participating in this mind-body practice. And then other prisons, like Apodaca Prison in Mexico, they had a horrifically historic violent incident at their prison, and then they just taught the whole prison how to meditate, and they haven't had a major violent incident from it since then. And so if we were teaching these mind-body practices in public education in age-appropriate ways from kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade, what we're suggesting is 1 hour a day, so it'd be kind of like a mind-body health science PE course, because Tai Chi and yoga give you all the benefits of exercise, but you'd be getting the mind-body benefits as well, so you'd be increasing your empathy and compassion part of your brain. And so just a little change in the brain waves, and these effects last, so it doesn't just make you less violent or kinder when you're doing the meditation, but it actually starts to change your brain, like I said. And so these students would have changed brains. They would have more socially functional brains and more compassionate and empathetic brains, more normal brains, really, because when you get into the science, compassion is a normal state for human beings. You see that in the science. And so, we could be imparting these ancient, time-tested, and science-proven technologies, mental technologies, to students all over the planet, and it wouldn't cost very much. And, just a little change in these students' brains would make the difference between them deciding when they get up in the morning if they're going to go out and, have some fun with their friends, or whether they're going to pack a backpack full of extra ammo and go blow up a school. It only takes a tiny little change in consciousness to make that change. So we could dramatically reduce these kind of things.
So the solution is within you.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the problems of our world, the society we live in. The solutions are spiritual.
So you're back on Chi Time with me, Clara Apollo. And just before those station messages, we heard seminal track from the Beatles as chosen by my guest here on Chi Time, Bill Douglas. It was the Here Comes the Sun. Indeed, one of my favourites as well. And it just really brings that glowing light of possibility and hope in that it is, I think we've all got the potential to have that kindled in our system. And when we can raise our frequency, then that helps everybody around. I mean, it's kind of a win-win for everyone, isn't it, Bill?
Absolutely. Yes. It's kind the last couple of years, we've kind of gone through a time where, our vision of possibility for the future has gotten a little bit squeezed, and that's natural when you're going through, something like we all went through. But now we're emerging from it. And so I think that one of the things that can happen when we go through a catastrophe is that we're more open to possibility. And there's tremendous possibility. I've spent 40 years putting all this science together. Yeah. And I just finished putting it together. It just published on January the 1st, the new second edition of the Gospel of Science. And it became very clear that the Global Transformation Project was the purpose of putting all that science together. And it was just so hopeful. And Here Comes the Sun just so epitomizes the vibe of this book, but more importantly, the Global Transformation Project.
Yeah. So if we could just backtrack a little bit about that and the Global Consciousness Project that Dr. Roger Nelson was involved in. I know that Dr. Roger Janker also spoke on Chi Time about this as well, because it was brought to our attention that when a global event occurs and everybody has a very similar response. And I think, was it the death of Princess Diana, where it just affected the whole world? And with these random generators that Dr. Nelson has, were they around then? Was he picking it up then? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I'm so glad Dr. Roger Yanko is talking about this. He's such a visionary. That's great. And it makes me think, when we first came up with the idea of World Tai Chi Day, I had that vision in my mind, and I thought that was like a personal vision. But now, as I've been collecting, this new data for this second book that just came out, we became aware of the Global Consciousness Project that you just referred to. And yes, they had those random event generators all over the planet. And Princess Diana's death was the first significant global event where they noticed the random event generators going off the charts. Just to give everybody a little primer, if you go to globaltransformationproject.org, and you'll see some charts from the Global Consciousness Project, which was born out of Princeton Engineering and Anomalies Research Laboratory over 20 years ago. They actually created it in 1998, same year that we had the first World Tai Chi and Qigong Day event. And that was also the first year that Dr. Effie Chow founded the World Congress on Qigong. So you start to see how these things percolate. And I realized, looking back as I saw this science, that wasn't my vision. This World Tai Chi Day was not my vision, I don't believe, at this point with the science. And it's validating things that I had kind of felt in a way, but didn't know how to articulate. No, I think what I was doing was I was tapping into a global desire, because the World Tai Chi Day spread so rapidly. And people all over the planet were just, there were certain visionaries in different countries or different cities that were just creating these massive events. It was like it was their idea. And I just happened to tap into something that was in the global vibe. And so what the Global Consciousness Project does, just to give everybody a little primer, is if you go to there and you see the charts, you'll see there's a zero line that goes right across the middle. And that is kind of where a random event generator's production hovers, because what it's like is it's like an electronic coin flipper. So if you flip coins, I think it's 200 times per second, which is what these random event generators do. It's going to diverge some, but it's going to stay on that zero line, because that's the statistical probability. It's going to stay around that. It's going to be 50-50 ultimately, if you look at it long enough. And that's what keeps the lights on in Las Vegas. They know that's the case. But what happened during Princess Diana's death was it veered way off of the normal track. And then they realized something's going on here. And so then they started to look at, in 2007, I contacted the Global Consciousness Project because I just started to become aware of their work. And I said, we organize this World Tai Chi and Qigong Day every year where, people all over the planet are doing Tai Chi and Qigong together. And I said, if you guys could you guys look at your data that day and see if you see anything? And this is 2007. Well, they never got back to me. And so I was really disappointed. I just thought, oh, well, we didn't have any impact. We weren't super big at that time. Maybe tens of thousands of people at that point around the planet participating. But then when I was working on the second edition of the book to come out in 2022, I contacted them because I just wanted to find out if any of these massive, because now after World Tai Chi Day, there's been other events that have spawned. And like the International Day of Yoga is the United Nations project, where they do the same thing we do with yoga all over the planet for a 24-hour period. And then there's other, international mass mind-body events that are held. And so, they got back to me, the Princeton-born Global Consciousness Project, they got back to me like very quickly. And they said, yeah, we've been observing like 100 of these. And right at the top was World Tai Chi and Qigong Day.
Wow, and they hadn't told you?
Yeah, no, they hadn't told me. And so that's how I found out, and I was able to get it in the book before it published.
How wonderful, Bill. That's amazing.
So exciting. And so it veered off 0.05, and 0.05 probability, that's considered statistically significant. So like if they were looking at a drug and its side effects, if there was a side effect that was 0.05, that would affect the rollout of that drug. That's how science works. And so World Tai Chi Day was 0.05. I believe the World Yoga Day was 0.05. And so they found this happening over and over again during these. And so what their ultimate realization was that when groups of people, and it can only, some of these events only involve thousands of people around the planet, but groups of people, when they come together in healing and compassion states of coherent consciousness, which is what Tai Chi and Qigong and the Big Five produce, that alpha state, that they have a bigger impact on the planetary consciousness than even events of, horrific fear or tragedy.
These kind of things.
So the solution is within you.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the problems of our world, the society we live in, the solutions are spiritual.
Well, they're scientific. It's consciousness science, because the verbiage is really important, because we're going to get this into public schools, and so we have to make sure that we use the proper description, because the way that I approach it is from just a science base. Now I've studied my.
You don't want to muddy it with it having like a religious overtone, is that?
Yes, that's correct, and it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to, because there's mind-body practices that are taught that aren't taught in a religious way, and they have that effect. They have that effect on people. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, if we were teaching public school kids all over the planet how to do mind-body practices, the science would show, all kinds of myriad benefits that would save society trillions of dollars year after year. But, if you wanted to use other verbiage, really what it would be, it would be a mass global spiritual awakening. Because some of the science, I mentioned that when I was at Folsom Prison.
Won't that be bad for business, though?
Yeah, that might. Businesses.
Yeah.
It'd be really good for Tai Chi and Qigong and yoga and meditation teachers.
Sure, herbal teas would go up. Yeah, but I mean, as far as...
People would probably start eating more organic food.
Yeah, javelin missiles, though. That might not sell as well.
That's true. They might not. And also Madison Avenue, they might not do quite as well, because people would be attracted to things that are...
Yeah, people didn't need to consume to fill the void, the hole inside of their soul. Yeah, that might be bad for business, too.
Well,
if people realize that they're actually complete... and that they've been lied to, and that everything they need is within inside of them, and they just need to acknowledge that and embrace that.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that I wanted to mention earlier when you were talking about kind of the state that we're in. I have a sense of kind of a larger picture, maybe because I'm like 65 years old or whatever, but it's like, I've seen so many waves of how things go socially and globally and everything. And, I really think all the things that we're going through are part of a mass global awakening. I think people have to get to the point where they realize that they can't put all their faith in Sean Hannity or Rachel Maddow or Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden or, you can just go on down the list. What people are starting to realize is the only thing that really matters is truth and compassion. Because that's how we're wired. It's from our DNA. There's research that shows our DNA is just naturally wired for compassion. And so I think that people are kind of, what's happening with all, the shrillness of media and propaganda and all these things, is that people are being awoken, masses of people, all over the planet. And they're just starting to realize that the only thing that really matters is, them and their neighbors and how well people that they know are doing. And, it's like all the, it's like, like I said, I've been an activist for 40 years. And, looking back now, I realized I was manipulated. I was manipulated by media to be, to just think the worst about people. Mm-hmm. Like I have a son-in-law who's a Republican. And, and I had a lot of prejudices against him. At first, it's like I tried to override it, but it's like they were there. And, just over the last couple of years, the way I've seen the way that the media manipulates and, makes us divided from one another, it's like I got to know him on a better level because I realized that he's not the boogeyman, that I had been sold, for so many years and I bought into. And so I think, that's people are starting to wake up to the fact that their neighbors aren't dangerous. If you watch Fox, or if you watch Fox, you're starting to awaken to the fact that your neighbors aren't communists, and if you watch MSNBC, you start to wake up to the fact that your neighbors aren't Nazis.
Maybe, but some people really feed into that paranoia. Some people think that the reason why, the people that went to the Capitol on January 6th, or people that voted for, Joe Biden are the worst people in the world, and how can we live with these people? I mean, the prejudices that have been plugged in for people so they can focus in on those and find something to be upset with.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. And that's like the opposite of that consciousness that you're talking about. It's the manipulation of that same global awareness, right? But it's through social media. It's through it's through a middleman. It's through some sort of artificial construct that is clearly manipulated. Because even though we're compassionate people, and that's probably what we default to, we also are incredibly tribalistic, and we love to blame people. We love to find our Judas goat.
Well, that's how propaganda works. It plays on our natural, weaknesses.
Sure.
And tries to
natural biases against people that we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's correct. Yeah, but it's just, I think people are just, they're just seeing that the media is not really telling the true story, and it doesn't matter whether it's left or right or whatever. I'm talking about corporate.
Oh, sure. The corporate media, what used to be called the mainstream media, but can't be called the mainstream media anymore because it doesn't have the same pull that people. Not this program, but people that have developed shows on the internet. From Joe Rogan to Jimmy Dore, these others that have a much larger audience than CNN. They said that when CNN lost the contracts to be in a bunch of airports throughout America, their viewership went down by half because most of CNN's viewership at this point was people waiting for an airplane.
Yeah, that was when I watched CNN. Right, when I was waiting for an airplane. Yeah. Yeah,
so those old narrative generators, corporate press, I mean, they're dying. People aren't listening to them anymore.
See,
they're not focused on them anymore.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's an awakening going on. And, like Gil Scott-Heron said, the revolution is not going to be televised.
Population keeps on breeding, nation bleeding, still more bleeding economy. Life is funny, skies are sunny, bees make honey, who needs money, monopoly?
I just wanted to mention, just real quick, this discussion series, this monthly discussion series, Dr. C.J. Rhodes and Siobhan Hutchinson here has really been the backbone of this thing. And this has been one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life because, as I mentioned before we turned the cameras on, this is the most important science being done in the history of science, according to Nikola Tesla. And I don't think there's anybody in science that could argue with Nikola Tesla. And so, these people should be on all the major TV programs talking about the science that we expose people to in this extraordinary series that Dr. C.J. Rhodes and Siobhan Hutchinson have made possible. And it's just, we organized World Tai Chi Day, which Princeton University Director of Research showed how we had actually changed global consciousness. But I've got to tell you, even though we've experienced doing Tai Chi with the whole planet for 24 years now, and that we actually changed global consciousness, this discussion series has been like the most spectacular event of my life. To have the ability to sit here with these folks and talk about the most important science being done in the history of science. And this platform provides data and science and information that has profoundly changed not only the way I do Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation, but the way I teach Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation, and the way that I do everything in my life. This has been truly life transformative for me, to be exposed to all this data and all this information about these mind-body practices that I've been doing for 45 years. And I don't think there's a mind-body person on the planet who wouldn't experience the same benefits that I have from this discussion series. So it's really important that everybody share these videos that we produce for free. One of the things that that we got involved with was you may or may not be familiar with it. I don't know. And there may be different versions of this. I'm not trying to just promote this one company, but there's a thing called Muse, a headband that'll sync with your phone, and then it can detect your brain waves, and then you can find out when you're in alpha state, essentially, or the percentage of time you're in alpha state. And that was extremely helpful. And then, as we, became aware of all the science that was just showing that it's really a huge miss by humanity not to be teaching kids how to do mind-body practices starting in kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. We have a United Nations resolution. Everybody can sign the petition to advocate for a non-mandatory, suggestive United Nations resolution advocating mind-body education K through 12 in public education worldwide. And what we're advocating is what we call the Big Five, because they have, in some cases, millennia of research behind them, but they have a huge. All right, so the book's free.
Yes, Bill, somebody just downloaded it. So that's wonderful. It's a huge book, chock full of information. So thank you, Bill. And wow, that was an amazing video.
Yeah, the concept of it is just so massive. It's like I can't really believe that I actually spent 40 years on that. I don't know. If I saw somebody doing that, I would have thought they were insane. But here I am, and I did it. And
Well,
yeah,
thank
and
you
it's
for
life transforming.
Thank you for doing that. So, Bill, it's almost 6 o'clock. Do you just want to take a question or two and then we'll wrap this up?
Yeah, if anybody's got one. Yeah, I just wanted to, just make sure everybody gets that free book, because all I can do is write it
You
and
can
give it away.
unmute yourself, and we only have a handful of people on right now, so you can unmute yourself and talk to Bill. I should bring up next month, we have another great speaker. And let me just get to that. So March 10th, Sunday, March 10th, 4 p.m. Eastern. Now I'm going to mispronounce his name. I'm sorry. Dr. Vasios. He's a senior researcher at the Physics of Complex Systems at the department. It's the University of Brussels. He conducts interdisciplinary research on self-organization and emergence in complex matter, as well as aspects of the foundation of complex systems. And the topic is encountering the tipping point, what we've learned from the first quarter of the century of complexity. So I have to admit, I'm not really clear what this is about, but it sounds exciting. And he is a great researcher, and we're so pleased to have him next month.
Yeah, the opportunity to do this is extraordinary. And like you saw with me on the basketball court, it's changed my life. I mean, it blew open the doors so that I can, really see the potential of these mind-body practices that I practice. And it's not about what I practice. It's what mind-body teachers are teaching all over the planet. But the science shows what it can do for us. And so it really opens the barn doors of possibility with that stuff. And the potential is huge. It's just really hard to convey it to folks these days because, the media just gives this really dismal view of possibility for humanity. And once you get away from it and you start looking at all this science, you realize that all that is cartoonish. It's not real, this grim, dismal reality, but people love it. In my classes, when I start, in my classes, when I tell people that violent crime rates are at a 40-year low, I'll get people that'll get mad at me because they have such an intimate relationship with the media that has given them a distorted picture of reality. And so breaking loose of this limited consciousness is the first step to awakening to the fact that we have such incredible potential with our mind-body practice, with our lives, and with the future of this planet.
We should point out that the FBI recently had a report. It was made public that the crime rates are reduced. And I live near Philadelphia, and to me, it sounds like, every day some, murders happening, whatever. And they're saying even Philadelphia, the crime rate went down really low. So it's not just hearsay. And the FBI's reporting it, but that did not make the news, did it?
Now, if it doesn't make you frightened or upset or angry, you hardly see it on the news.
Yeah.
There's really not much information to be gained from mainstream media. You have to
Right.
actually, kind of dig in and look for truth. And I do. I spend all my
Right.
time, trying to analyze, personal health situations and also, societal and global uh, situations. And it's way different than what you get from the mainstream media. And it's all fear-based, what you get from the mainstream media.
It
It's meant to
is.
trigger stress chemicals. And so the more we can get away from it and, actually seek real information instead of just titillation.
To find the answers by meditating, by getting into oneself. Does anyone have any questions for Bill? It's now after 6, and I don't know how much longer we can record this. So before we leave, does anyone have a question? And I hope you come back on March the 10th, and I hope you order the t-shirts. I put everything in the chat.
I'll be giving the book away again on March the 10th, by the way, but you can get it all day today. Until midnight tonight, Central Standard Time, it'll be free on Amazon Kindle. But I'll be giving it away again
okay. Right.
at the March event.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to try one more time. Anybody else? We're getting a lot of big thank yous. People are very appreciative of the program, Bill. And thank you so much
thank
to
you.
you
I'm so glad
and
to hear that.
Angela for creating both the World Taiji and Qigong Day and the Global Transformation Project. So unless you have any other further gems, we'll just tie this up, okay?
Yep.
Yes, I have questions.
Yes, please do. Mm-hmm.
Hello? Excuse
Yes.
me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, Happy New Year, everybody. Nice to see you
Gong
again.
hei fa choi.
Thank
Good
you.
I have one question. Beginning time, I didn't hear clearly. You said World Tai Chi Qigong Day is the second organization of UN.
25th year.
No, World Tai Chi and Qigong Day was created first. It was just a completely grassroots thing. But then years later, the United Nations General Assembly voted to create the International Day of Yoga, which media calls World Yoga Day. So they patterned it after what we did, but it was done through the United Nations. Ours was just completely grassroots, and it was years before the UN did it.
I see. So what's the status right now for this project?
The Global Transformation Project?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're committed to contacting every United Nations mission on the planet, starting when we get 100,000 signatures on the petition at globaltransformationproject.org, because it's going to be a ton of work. It's going to be expensive to contact every mission in the world. We're going to call them. We're going to email them. We're going to send them letters. We're going to follow up. We're going to make this thing happen. But we don't want to invest that massive amount of work unless we have at least 100,000 people sign in their names so that we have soul force behind this. Really, we should have millions of names. I mean, God knows how many hundreds of millions of people are, lives are benefiting from mind-body practices, but they don't know about the petition. So it's up to each one of us to make sure that everybody that we know who knows the value of Tai Chi and Qigong, groups that we belong to, organizations that we belong to, Facebook pages that we belong to spread this petition, because I can't spread the petition all by myself. I can do all the work with the United Nations, but I depend on everybody else to start spreading this petition. And, it's growing, but it should be growing a lot faster.
Bill, can I recommend what I'm doing on my signature line of the emails I have the link to sign the petition in my signature line.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So
yeah.
and Bill, you get my emails. So everybody.
Well, that's why I signed the petition, because you said had that in your email.
Everybody can put the link on their email, and that's how these things spread.
Yeah, we have to spread it
Facebook.
ourselves. The social media algorithms, they don't promote solutions. This is you can see the data on all this if you look into it. No, they promote conflict, because that creates more chatter on social media. And so solution oriented things, we don't get bumped up in the algorithms. It depends on people who see value in what we're doing, spreading this stuff, with people they do. And for me, that all comes really naturally. It's like anytime I've come across a book that was, important or momentous, like Dr. Herbert Benson's book or Dr. Roger Nelson's book or Bruce Lipton's book or whatever, or Alan Watts, it was like I was telling everybody that I know, I wanted everybody that I know to know about that book or that movie that was inspiring or that documentary. And it just amazes me that other people don't do that with what we're doing.
Yeah,
To a very, very large
we
extent.
also did a lot. Actually, you did very good, Mr. Douglas. All of you, I'm amazed whatever you did. You for 25 years, and that's not easy.
Well, we can do a lot more. This global transformation project, this could change the planet, change the history of the planet.
Yes, that's right. We're greatly stronger supporter, you know what I mean? We're strong supporter in here in Washington, Seattle. We really dedicate. And last year, the governor James Lee, he signed the proclamation for this Taiji Qigong Day in Washington. Yeah, thank you.
I remember that. Yeah,
What
the
you
governor
did.
of Washington.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's right. So
yeah, we've
right
had
now,
22 U.S. governors proclaim it. Yeah,
22?
but through all those organizations, if you can get them all to start spreading the petition, globaltransformationproject.org, we've got to start gaining momentum on these signatures.
right now, it's 22 governors.
Yeah, we had 22 governors proclaim World Tai Chi and Qigong Day.
That's great. Yeah, so that's how about how many signatures right now? Signatures.
We had an original petition that had about 1,000, but now we're gathering a new petition so that we're able to contact people, and so that one's almost up to 1,000. So we've got about 2,000, so that's 98,000 to go. But I mean, to be honest with you, I'll be really disappointed if we only have 100,000. I'm going to do it. I'm definitely going to do it. 100,000 will be able to get me, get some UN missions to be able to pay attention. But my God, I mean, with all the people that are benefiting from my body, it takes about 8 seconds to sign the petition, and it takes about 15 seconds to put it out on everybody's social media. The mind-body community should be spreading this petition. I'm perplexed that it's not happening much faster than it is. Yeah.
It will, Bill. You've done it before. You and Angela have done it before. It will.
Yeah, I just forgot how long it takes.
Bill.
Yeah.
It's not, we think positively, it will not take that long.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We are strong supporter. Yeah,
it already happened, Bill.
Yeah, that's right. It already happened.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, guys, I think we're gonna call it a night. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. We'll have
a great weekend.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Yeah,
Happy New Year.
Thank
you for signing the petition, everybody, and we'll have a recording of this on the website. And Bill, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Siobhan.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Douglas.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.